Welcome, everybody. This is Sally Speaks Mindset Podcast, and I'm your host, Sally Arkell-Boles. I'm a high performance business and success mindset mentor, and I believe that you deserve to really create the wealth, the wellness, and the wisdom that you've always desired. My passion lies in helping you to break through your barriers to success, provide you with the tools to create your dreams, and mentor you on how to achieve your goals so you can live your best life. And my podcast is designed to inspire, educate, and motivate you to success. My guests are leaders in their field and have incredible stories and journeys to share with you. And today I'm so excited to introduce you to Shannon Owen of Mortgages by Shannon Owen. So Shannon and I met a few months ago at a women's networking group. And it's been such a pleasure to watch Shannon as she's evolving in her new career. Because a few years ago, she was in sales and operations with a national sales manager. And in 2021, she was thinking, I need a change. And she really decided to go after one of her passions. Number one was numbers. She loves numbers. Now, how many of us can say that? And she also had a real passion for real estate. So she put the two together and she started her own mortgage company. So this is really exciting because Shannon is young compared to most of my guests, but I really wanted to highlight her because I've watched her growth over the last year or so and seen where she's come from and the success that she's had. And sometimes we set goals that we seem are maybe not achievable, but we can still run after them. And so Shannon has a really great story on that. So I hope you enjoy today as we dig into how to be able to, number one, pivot from one type of company and job to a whole different one, from a job to being self-employed, and to be able to grow a business and thrive in this environment. So Shannon, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I appreciate you inviting me to be a part of this, and I'm excited to tell my story.
Excellent. So now let's hear about your story. So as we talked about a little earlier, a few years ago, you had been in a corporate position and you were doing quite well, being the national sales director. So I think that means your achievement was already there. So is it that's the drive behind Shannon as far as, being a goal seeker and setting big, worthy goals for herself?
Yeah. You bet. So at the time I had, we all loved the COVID times, and I was in a role that was international, that was not quite as fulfilling as I was hoping. I had joined the company, the last corporate company that I was with, in February of 2020, with all of these plans to visit our facilities overseas and travel to different conferences. And then COVID happened in March of 2020. And I was extremely fortunate to maintain a position within that company throughout that first very unsettling year. And then I got very bored. The pace of what we were trying to do was extremely delayed because of everything that was happening in the world. And I needed something more.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when I took it upon myself to start to branch out. I'd worked with a really great group of people for over a decade. We were a team. We did different businesses together, and it was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
It's finally time for me to go out and do something that was truly for myself. So I went back to school. I treated that as my full-time job for almost 3 months. And I crunched the numbers. I did as much as I could on my own. I wrote my exam, and I became a licensed mortgage broker.
Nice.
I had been presented the opportunity 4 or 5 years prior to that to do it then, and I wasn't in a position in my life. I was living paycheck to paycheck. We had just bought a home ourselves, and I was too nervous at that point in my life to make that commitment versus come 2021, I was in a better space financially. We've been established in our home now for 7, almost 8 years. And my husband has a very secure and steady job, very fortunate for that. And it was just kind of time that we made the commitment. Mm-hmm. And I'm so happy. I would never look back. Has it been easy the whole way through? No, absolutely not.
Never is
Yeah,
easy.
it isn't. But it has been so worth it. And I have such a new perspective for small businesses. I can tell you that any time a new client picks up the phone or sends me an email, it is honestly, it's the happy dance inside that just lights the fire to provide the best service possible for them and help them make their financial dreams and goals through real estate come true.
Awesome. So making that big change and making that decision to go back to school, it sounds to me like you sort of contemplate your moves, you have a plan in place, you're sort of a planner to make sure that everything's going to go the way you want it to go.
Yeah.
And that's great. Not a lot of people work that way. And some people just take a leap of faith and they do it and they have success as well. So tell me a little bit more about your thought patterns around planning step by step to be able to get there, because some people will love that step-by-step system that you're sharing. So would you mind talking a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I kept a job while I went back to school. I had kind of started my own consulting business to independently contract to, again, people in my network, whether it was sales support or operations support, admin support. I kept that as an option. It was a guaranteed income. I had to work for it. I shouldn't say that it was guaranteed income. I was not working for a company, but I knew that if I continued to do this, there would be a monthly retainer coming in on that aspect. I could only complete my course in as quick as 10 weeks. And I think I actually did it in 12. But my focus was to get that done as quickly and as efficiently as possible. To eliminate downtime. Going to school is not going to bring you any money while you're in school. And so I wanted to get that done as quickly as possible. And then once I was fully licensed and had written the exam, I joined a brokerage immediately, which is The Place to Mortgage, a franchise of Mortgage Alliance, a phenomenal team. 65 brokers, and I want to say almost 60 of us are women. So it's been really supportive and phenomenal from that perspective. And so I immediately had a team of mentors and colleagues that could help me be successful. Yes. They had a plan. They have steps to kind of get through those first 12 weeks in business on your own to help you analyze that. I also learned very quickly that there is value in money spent on expertise. I'm not an accountant. I don't want to be an accountant. I don't want to be a bookkeeper. I don't want to necessarily be a marketer. There are people that you can resource out to that make it so valuable for what my time is worth pursuing what I actually enjoy. And so my advice is to limit the downtime and then hit the pavement running. Because at the end of the day, you do have to put, food on the table. I was very fortunate and I'm very thankful that I was able to keep that consulting role and business of mine going on the side, even just part-time, to know, okay, here's $1,500 a month that I know is going to come in. It's going to be here as a minimum. And a lot of people have different perspectives on that. I've done a lot of mindset and personal growth over the last year and a half, 2 years, I guess. And it's amazing to me, some people's perspective of you can't have that little support system in place because you'll never fully commit to your business, versus the risk adverse individual that I am that was like, no, like it's not taking up too much of my time. It's taking up just enough to know that it's there, that I'm safe to pursue what my future and end goal was. And so far it's worked.
Yeah. So on that last piece, because I teach a lot of mindset, a lot of people, if they are going into their businesses and they have a fear, which is a paradigm, It's a paradigm that we've created over time, that we're fearful that if we don't have a steady income, that we're going to not have an income. And so we actually put a halt on attracting that money to us. Whereas if we have, like you said, a little bit of sense of security in some way, shape, or form, that there's a little bit of money trickling in, it's going to help you to feel more open to attracting that money. So it definitely depends on your nature and your own paradigms as to which one's going to work best for you. But a lot of people will also block money coming in if they feel that they're dependent on that money coming directly from another source, until they get to a point where they actually feel confident that they have a consistent income and they've been able to create that. And that can happen both in people like yourself that are self-employed and also employees, because a lot of the times we cap our income ourselves by not believing that we're going to attract more money in, or that we're not worthy of moving up to that next level. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because there are a lot of different ways of looking at our money mindset. And so yours is very clear because you're analytical. I can tell you're very analytical. I came from the finance industry, so I understand what that looks like, but I've also been, a leader in corporate, managing a whole organization's finances as well. And it's very evident when people have that fear that they'll hold themselves back. So I think it's important what you said, because you said some people said, oh, this is not the way to do it. And yet I did it this way. And it's because of your own personal mindset of not wanting to feel like you're in lack, therefore you'll attract more. And so I know that you've had success in launching your business over the last few years. So tell me a little bit about your successes and your wins. How did it feel and how did you create them?
Yeah, you bet. It is interesting to me. I mean, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of mortgage brokers, especially across the country. And I try to absorb as much knowledge as I possibly can to understand what has worked for other people, what maybe hasn't, and what resonates and might feel good for me personally, because what didn't work for someone else, see a lot of potential in. And so a really great example of that is I'm in an industry where we have to meet people. I can only exhaust my friends and family so much that, I had to get out and start meeting new people. And in starting that, from my previous businesses, a very common thing for us to do was industry events, and trade shows were a huge part of that. Now, typically, they weren't necessarily open to the public. They were maybe more customer and industry partner related. But I was very familiar with the rise and grind of booking that booth and setting it up and what you needed to be there to show up, get through the long days. You're on your feet a lot, talking to people, but it was second nature to me. And so a really great contrast and compare is our Alberta broker owner. She preaches that was how she built the first 3 to 4 years of her business, was attending home shows, wedding shows, getting out, meeting new people, and learning about other people. Now, our BC broker owner, who also had a previous job that was trade show related, absolutely hated them because they weren't fun and they are a lot of work. And that wasn't her passion. And so she didn't, both very successful brokers. But I knew that trade shows were second nature to me. So I went ahead and I signed up for my first home show last year. Of course, it is a cost of doing business. It is scary to put out, at least for me, to put out the money ahead of time. But you have to trust the process that, 1 or 2 connections will make up for that. And you're planting the seeds today to harvest over the next 4 or 5 years. Not everyone needs a mortgage today. Not everyone needs a mortgage next month, what have you. But how can you support? How can you be there to service them and hopefully win their business throughout the process? So all of that to say, I signed up for my first home show in the spring of last year. I met probably 300 new people. We focused on a giveaway. I had tons of contact information coming out of that trade show. I look back and I admit my follow-up was absolutely garbage. I had initial email that went out to the team of people that I had met. And fortunately for me, that turned into opportunities. We had a couple of people that had renewals coming up, which worked out great. But since then, I'll admit that I'm not the person with a fantastic email marketing campaign, drip campaigns. It's not my forte. It's not how I've conducted business to date. But what I did collect was certain information about people's scenarios, and I have the ability to reach out to them on a more personal basis, which works for me. And it was a learning curve. It was a learning opportunity for that when I were to do another trade show coming up, that what could I improve on? I met not just potential clients, I met realtors, I met financial planners who have turned into referral partners of mine and have continued to send me business that has long since paid for the, $700, $800 show that I participated in. So it was really encouraging to me, like I said, to see that difference and contrast between our broker owners. One supports, one could by preference, and to see what success was possible come out of that. So
awesome. So from what I'm hearing is not everybody's going to choose the same path in marketing, right?
Absolutely.
Not everybody's going to feel comfortable with the same elements of marketing. And you alluded to a little earlier about hiring out some of help within your business, like a virtual assistant, or probably somebody that does some marketing or looks after your social media. So the value of that can be priceless to keep you on the income generating activities. And I think with most business owners, when we're starting out, we forget to really think about the cost of doing business and how that's going to help us to increase our revenue and ultimately our profit at the end of the day, and more happy clients. So tell us a little bit about other marketing strategies that you put into place outside of that, or is that your main marketing strategy at this point? Do you have a referral system in place? What else are you using within your client base to be able to drive performance?
I would say that is the majority of what I have been successful at. There are certain areas that I still need to improve on, and I have great master plans and thoughts that just need to be downloaded out of my brain and actually put forth on paper and executed on. But you make a great point about how do I continue to generate business? And I shifted a large focus this year, again, jumping out of my comfort zone. So there are several people in the industry that will preach that realtors are your best friend, that's where your business is going to come from. It's a huge portion. And there are the opposite, same thing, going back to the broker, like just the contrast of people. There are other people who absolutely will not work with realtors. That's not what makes them fulfilled in their job. They don't find that it generates enough business for them, so they go elsewhere to find business. But I jumped out of my comfort zone personally at the beginning of this year and started reaching out to local realtors. And I do touch back on our dominant women-ly kind of contributed brokerage, in that I have found a passion for women in business. And so I have connected with some of the most amazing female realtors throughout the Fraser Valley here. And it has been so fulfilling, like just from personal connections, relating to what's happening in the market, relating to owning our own businesses. Relating to these journeys together. Those are, again, it's those seeds that we're planting that are starting to come to fruition. I got a phone call yesterday from a realtor. I'm working with new clients. I'd love to introduce you guys. And again, those phone calls, they just make you happy. Like, I can't have a feeling other than you just do like a happy dance. And it's exciting to be able to make those dreams and goals a reality for mutually beneficial clients of ours. Mm-hmm. So that's been a huge pivot to my business this year, is working and connecting with certain different industries and referral partners in those industries. And then, like I said, there's still a ton from the social media aspect and the email marketing aspect that I would love to execute on, and they are kind of coming up in the future and focusing in on that to get it all, just keep the ball rolling really at this point.
Yeah, so lots of different options as you're building your business to be able to look at what's next as far as that marketing. So, but once you find what your niche is in your marketing, like you love doing the trade shows, you probably only need to do a couple of those big shows a year to make it beneficial for you. Then you're starting to build that network of people already. So be able to drive that performance forward. So with anybody that's listening, there are so many different ways to market, and you'll be approached as soon as people know your business, you'll be approached by everybody, especially if you're on social media, about wanting to help you on each of the different platforms that you're in. But my advice for most people starting out is to focus on one platform. So if you're going to be on Facebook or Instagram, or you want to be on LinkedIn or one of the other ones that are out there, focus on one at a time and become an expert on that one and build your audience there first, and then move on to the next one after you've got a really good rhythm going and you're having success, because it's so easy to get distracted and try to be in every platform and yet not do a good job on any. So I've seen you really focusing, I believe, on Instagram is where you are. And so if you're looking for Shannon Owen, she is on Instagram, and we'll put that all up in the notes from the actual podcast. So now, young women getting into business, being self-employed, tell me about, what you've seen with the women that you've been connecting with, because you're very excited about being with more women in your organization and within the group that you're working with. But what if there's a lot of other young women out there that are, in their jobs, they know that there's more out there for them, but they're scared to take that leap of faith to move over? What would your advice be?
I would say ask the question. I remember when I was considering, it was before I took the leap to go back to school and pursue becoming a mortgage broker. And I called on people that I knew that were brokers. And I said, am what I'm doing crazy? Like, is it really hard? What am I getting myself into? What should I be prepared for? And I had a variety of different answers. I had people tell me that it was a male-dominated industry and that if I couldn't stand up to men, then I wouldn't make it. What I haven't necessarily shared yet is that the team that I've worked with prior to this, I was the only female on the team. So I've been in both kind of scenarios, and that really wasn't necessarily a fear for me, but it has worked out in this scenario that I have found a passion for connecting with other women in business and supporting them. I think that we have different almost, I shouldn't say different values, but in a sense that we just connect on a different level in a lot of cases. But circling back to another individual I talked to, is that, like that first paycheck, it takes time.
Yes.
She had necessarily been just licensed a month or two, and she was showing up on, social media. She had beautiful branding, but that paycheck still hadn't rolled in 2 months into the gig. And so putting that money out up front and knowing that we still had bills to pay, like that's not always necessarily easy either. And then there was one that I talked to that just, gave me all of the reasons why to not the cautionary tales. And everyone's personality is different, and the opportunities, it was still realistic of, this is how you get paid, what you get paid. This is, the reality is that yes, it takes time, but, follow your heart, be open to success, and do something every day that works towards building your business. I think as entrepreneurs, we get really stuck. If I open my calendar today, I can honestly tell you that the only thing booked for today is this meeting with you. Mm-hmm. Now, that means that I could sit at home and watch TV for the next 6 hours after this. But I can tell you that that's not going to drive my business. That's going to help me meet new people, get my name out there, or help me learn. So much of what I do is still education and learning. I am in 3 different conferences next week to learn from different aspects of our business, not just on business growth, but also on, with our lenders and their policies and things like that. So there's so many things that I can be doing in my day that might not be filling out a client's application today, but so much more.
Mhm. Yep. We're frozen a bit.
Yeah.
There we go. Oh,
Sorry.
try again.
I think that she made a
There we go.
really good point there about showing up on social media, and how, like I could literally lose track of half of a day trying to build out content in Canva that really isn't a great use of my time. It's not my favorite place to be. It's not my favorite thing to do. Now, did I do that for the first 8 or 10 months of my business? Yeah, I didn't have the funds to pay someone to do it. So you kind of make it work. And then as that kind of starts to change, you start to be able to make the differences and the changes and hire kind of that expertise in those places. But no, I think that this next piece of that is just the learning and personal growth and mindset growth that is available. If I have a down hour here or there, it's pick up a book, and it's in all different areas. But the one I'm reading right now is Atomic Habits, and understanding how that makes that impact. There's so many different things to be doing to personally make a difference in your life that translates automatically into your business.
Yeah, so I think what I hear you saying is that I can make the best use of my time to either work with my clients, to learn how to work better, feed my mindset, make sure I'm doing that daily activities, farming out the jobs that I've now been able to afford, and then be able to really stay on top of your game and not stay at home just because there's nothing in your calendar, but to treat your job like your business, like it's a job. And I think that's one of the things I noticed a lot when I was in the finance and insurance industry as well, is that a lot of advisors wouldn't show up. And that avoidance was a big indicator to me that they didn't have anything on their calendar and they weren't feeling confident in themselves because they weren't out doing the mindset.
Absolutely.
As an entrepreneur, you're fortunate because you do have an office space to go to where there's other people around. And a lot of people are working from home. So it's just as easy to get distracted at home and, flip on,
Great point that you make. It's probably one of my husband and I's biggest, maybe misunderstandings, not understandings with each other, is he doesn't understand why I pay for a separate office space. It's a big space. Yes, it is a monthly cost. Do I absolutely need it? No, I do have a desk at home. I wouldn't call it an office. It's my spare bedroom and his closet and everything else. But there is a lot to be said for the dishes that need to be done, or the laundry, or the dog that wants to walk, the day-to-day distractions that are there, the efficiencies that I get walking out that door to have a set scheduled day and make the best use of my time within those hours, to also not let the day drag on. When it's dinner time and I'm still upstairs plugging away on my computer because it's there and accessible. Those boundaries and balances are important. And I'm not saying that there's never a time when I don't pick up the phone to speak with a client in the evening. But I have found that when I do work from home, all of a sudden it's 7:30 and I haven't gotten up from my chair since noon. That's a slippery slope in itself as well. And so you have to do what's best for you. And those boundaries are very important.
And I think, there are a lot of now co-op workspaces as well. So if you need to be around other people, because sometimes that really helps to be around other people and just have the energy of other people that are working, regardless of whether you even talk to them at this place. There's a lot of co-work spaces around, co-share spaces. So Shannon has the opportunity to work within the group that she's with, but if you had that opportunity, it's really worth even exploring for one day a week and make it one of the days that that you're normally not productive on. Maybe it's a Friday, maybe it's a Wednesday, could be any day, but just sort of look at the other options that are out there to get you around other people if you're finding that it's harder to keep the discipline going. And typically when you're in a struggle stage, it's harder to get the discipline going because you're focused on the lack as opposed to the attract. And so I want to caution you, unless you're disciplined and understand what needs to be done, it's going to be tough if you're working solo from home and you don't have a team, as most entrepreneurs don't start with a team. And so it's a matter of having, I call it an accountability partner, even if it was, if let's say Shannon was connecting with me every day and we're just doing a check-in morning and night. Hey, how's your day going to lined up? What are you going to achieve today? And then check in at the end of the day, 5 minutes, just to have an accountability partner can really help when you're a solopreneur. And I think that is critical to keeping you on track, but also having accountability to do the income generating activities. Because there's lots of activities we can do that don't generate any income or aren't leading us to generating income. So I think it's important to understand that piece as well. And so I appreciate you talking about, the discipline that you have, but also we do have, I just did a LinkedIn Live today talking about moving from a corporate position into the entrepreneurial field. And within that, we talked about the top 10 things to worry about. And one of those is your family and your spouses and the things that if they're in a traditional job like my husband is, doesn't really understand what I do all day, doesn't understand that income doesn't flow in every single day consistently. It's going to have some good days. It's going to have some days where it sort of seems to float. But I say I'm really busy and they're like, but that doesn't equate to the hourly rate, or it doesn't equate to, why we would spend this money to do this for your business when, right? So there's all of those things as well that we have to manage as solopreneurs or even as entrepreneurs with a team, because the consistency may not be there like their jobs. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yes. And I actually have another girlfriend of mine who is pursuing her own business right now. And it's important to build that network of people that are doing similar things, because it is so easy to get lost in the negativity and the misunderstanding that sometimes our partners and spouses have, but not understanding it versus the opposite. So a prime example from that is when you are starting your first client or your first contract, is making your top dollar the biggest priority and focus for you? Or is a discounted rate because it's the very beginning for you, but building the experience in the portfolio is the goal? And only you as the business owner will understand what's best for you to decide in that moment. So I can tell you that the men in my life are driven by dollar values, and I am very much driven by it will pay off in the long run. I am doing stuff today that might not make sense to anybody but me, that I am certain will pay off in the long run. Just put in, whether it's at open houses with realtors, I'm building relationships with the realtors, I am meeting new people, I am not coming home to close a mortgage on a Sunday afternoon. That's just not the outcome that I'm looking for, but someone who doesn't get it, expecting that. And so it's really important to remember to have like-minded people that are pursuing similar paths as you, to bounce those ideas off of for perspective, for sure.
Yeah, and it can be a big struggle because our friends will start making comments, our family members, our extended family members may say things. We may not be able to afford to put our children into some lessons for a while. All of those things can be impacted when you're an entrepreneur, but the belief that Shannon has is what the business owner needs. You need to have that committed belief, that determination, and the expectation that you're going to be able to reach your goal, because none of us really know the timeline it's going to take, because everybody's individual and everybody's got a different story, and everybody's comes in with a different background and expectation and or network. And so I want you to really understand what Shannon's sharing with us today, because this is so powerful. Your commitment and your belief in that what you're putting in today in your business and in your work to get to where you are with a positive attitude and with an expectation that it will be brighter is going to feed you to be able to have stick and stay, because most people, I believe it's over 95% of people, leave just before they become successful. They give up just a little bit sooner than they should. So pushing through when it seems like it's never going to happen is when that beauty happens, because it's going to take overcoming those fears, those worries, those doubts, those, question marks for yourself, and maybe a little bit of financial struggle and inconsistency in the finances. Work through those things, and then you'll be able to get to the other side, because you do need to have barriers to overcome, to get through, to be able to create that success.
Absolutely. And one other thing that I will add to that is that, where did it go? That not every day is perfect and wonderful. That's right. There are days that are hard. There are days, and I do that happy dance that I spoke of because I have new clients that reach out to me, only to find out that actually getting them across the finish line is going to be very difficult. Or there are sometimes clients that you get them to the finish line, and the 11th hour something happens and it all collapses and falls apart, and now you're back at the beginning. So, especially on social media, there's a really big highlight reel out there of how perfect this can be. But what's not always out there is the behind the scenes, really lonely days, trying to navigate, trying to figure out what you're missing or not doing right, or how you can do it better. And that is, again, when I just express, rely on your network, reach out to the people around you that are going through the thick of it at the same time, and get a fresh perspective and be open to that perspective. Because sometimes it's tough love. Sometimes, it's going to make your bad day even worse. And then you're going to wake up the next morning and be like, you know what? That made sense. Hear it in the moment, but that made sense. And you pick up the pieces and you keep going. And like you said, you have to push through to really make it to the finish line, because you never know how close you really can be.
Exactly. And I think that's a good way to end today, because it really is up to you as to whether you decide make a decision, a committed decision. I would say if you make a committed decision to your success, then you'll stick with it. If you just make a choice or, believe that you can do it, but you haven't made that committed decision, then that's what's going to cause a little bit of a backup, a little bit of a slowdown, because you're not fully committed. Therefore, you're not in the right mindset to do what it takes to make it happen. So I really appreciate you sharing all of your wisdom with us today. It's obvious that you've done a lot of mindset work, and you continue to really focus on exactly what you need to do to stay positive in your environment, and understand that there's always going to be those ups, those downs, but the ones that persevere are the ones that are going to come out as winners at the end. So any last minute advice that you want to share to the audience?
There is one thing, and that is that there will always be people with negative perspectives. And I can tell you right now that they are part of the drivers of my business. When someone tells me that I'm going to fail, I'm going to prove them wrong. That is my mission, is to prove them wrong. That my business is going to be tough this year, that, the market's not great. That's okay. I'll figure out how to do it, and I will prove you wrong on the other side.
Awesome. So now where can people find you? So on Instagram, you go by?
Yes, Mortgages by Shannon. You can email me, mortgages@shannonowen.ca. I am available for a call anytime, 778-808-4422. And it's super simple. So I can help facilitate mortgages across the country, in Canada with our team. And I personally focus on BC and Alberta, but I am happy to help however I can, give you a second opinion, review your current position, help you try and save some money, and make the best out of your mortgage situation.
Awesome. Thank you. So we'll put all of that information down below, and we'll also put the books that she's recommended that you check out, because it's always good to have those along with Shannon's information and her bio. So we'll get that posted up for you, and definitely make sure, if you're looking for a mortgage, if you're not sure if you would qualify for a mortgage yet, if you've got a number of properties and you need help with trying to figure out how to take care of the numerous properties that you have, Shannon's your gal. As you can tell, she's focused on her clients. She really wants to be able to make a difference for people in all aspects of their life, from those just starting out to those that are downsizing and moving to that next level. And as you can tell, she has a really positive attitude and will do her best to find the way to make it successful for yourself and for the business that she gets to work with, so that she can find you the best rates. So congratulations, and thank you so much for joining us today, Shannon.
Thank you for having me, Sally. It was great to speak.
Awesome.